Fulham seems to have revived a lot of people and their hope and their beliefs that Chelsea can pull off a top 5 spot. This, obviously, after the 83 minutes prior, which people will definitely brush aside and ignore and not look into too much. But the point remains that Chelsea need consistency coming into these final 5 games. Drawing to Brentford and Ipswich, those 4 points missed would have put us 3rd and a point clear of 4th. But obviously that wasn't to be. Those are the margins of error that we are currently working with. And whilst many are happy with the result against Fulham, and many believe we still hold some chance, we now hold one of the hardest final runs of games this league has ever seen in order to secure Champions League football. Now, hopefully, the boys can take this momentum, take this adrenaline into the game against Everton. Home games, home games, home games. We have 3 in our last 5 games, which gives us a slightly larger margin of success. Everton, Liverpool, and Manchester United. In theory, to most, that would appear to be 6 points as a minimum. Everton, Manchester United, both out of form. Manchester United absolutely out of form. Still tricky customers all the same, but that's 6 points if we can get those 2. With 7 also likely, an extra point that is, to make it 7. But 9, now that would be a miracle. And I think overall, we're talking about miracles in general. Liverpool can secure the Premier League title with a win against Tottenham, who they face at home this Sunday. Ideally, they do it there without any blips, as they would then have another chance against us should they come away with anything other than a win. And whilst I absolutely agree that if Liverpool have already wrapped up the title before we face them, then we might see a slight drop in intensity from them. I don't think it will totally matter. Liverpool versus Chelsea, always an interesting game. And I don't think Liverpool are going to want to give up their record. Liverpool's record against us is unforgiving. Winless in the last 13 in all competitions against Liverpool. If we do get a win in that game, it's a huge sign. It's a huge telltale sign that we may be on the cusp of just a significant record-breaking, against all odds sort of situation that we find ourselves in, that Chelsea may go on to do it. It's a huge sign of what we may be able to pull off in order to get the job done, as obviously Liverpool is just 2 games in. We'll have 3. We'll have, Newcastle, we'll have Manchester United, and we'll have Nottingham Forest. The atmosphere being at Stamford Bridge, if we beat Everton, will be outrageous, to say the least. It will be that of when sides need results against us. If you remember seasons gone by, Everton at Goodison being one of them most recently, and one of the most, against all odds situation. But realistically, as Chelsea fans, we knew we're going to lose this game. But anyway, with semi-finals either side of Liverpool, we can absolutely afford to rest players, Maresca. I will concede that Maresca obviously made some decisions in the game against Fulham that led us to a win. I'm still not happy. I'm still not content with where we're going. I'm not fully sold that this is going in the direction that a lot of people are hoping that it will. I hope to God I'm wrong. I really do hope that I am wrong. However, I will concede Tyreek George proved to be a very good substitution, and taking Madueke off instead of Neto, much to the dismay of everyone, I will concede that Maresca made the right decision and it paid off. However, the 83 minutes before that, those situations came about, the eye test is the eye test, and people are not blind, Unless we do that every single game, and we're struggling, and every single game now between now and the end of the season, we pull off last minute winners, then sure. Okay, if you can pull it off, great. But leaving everything to the last minute, it's not the way to go. But I will concede. I will concede. It was good. It was good management. It was good management. However, with the semi-final games against Djurgården, either side of Liverpool, we can absolutely afford to rest players, which again, I go back to Maresca. You've got to rest players for those games, unlike what you did resting players against Brentford for Legia Warsaw, and obviously then going on to drop points against Ipswich. We can afford to rest players against Djurgården in the game before Liverpool, and we must rest players before this game where we can, and that is against Djurgården. We'll take the loss in the first leg, I'm sure. I don't think that Djurgården are really going to prove to be much of a problem, and obviously Legia Warsaw was what it was, but come on. Jesus Christ. A maximum points remaining of 72 for Chelsea Football Club. A win against Everton, Manchester United, and a draw against Liverpool gives us 7 points, taking us to 64. 64 points is now what Opta are predicting we finish on following our result against Fulham. It was 62 points something or other, before that. And obviously being a very unlikely result in the end, 64 points has now bumped us up a little bit. So, if we can get those 7 points, taking us to 64 points, which personally I think is wild, but doable. But again, I'm just basing it off of the recent games. Yes, the game against Fulham was a massive result. I was as happy as anyone. If not, fucking you saw my reaction. I was going nuts. But I'm being realistic. I'm hedging me bets. But if we can get those 7 points, which personally I think is wild, then any points are huge points against Newcastle and Nottingham Forest on the final day, and could and would make all the difference. Listen, for me, I still think it's too little too late. And that whilst the result against Fulham was huge, massive, I'm not going to get my hopes up, and honestly, neither should any of you. I don't think, realistically. Back to the boys. Yes, get excited. Back to the boys. Yes, get excited for the possibility, of course. But just realise that in a season where everything was going our way in order to help us secure a top 4 place, we had multiple chances to close the gap, to overtake, to actually challenge, which obviously was never going to be the case, but to actually challenge for top 3. We're not factually the least likely side in this race to get the job done. We are in fact factually the least likely side to get this done. Me saying all this doesn't make me a bad supporter. I'm just basing it off of what we've been made to watch this season. And whilst it is still mathematically possible, this team has constantly fumbled chance after chance. So excuse me for not wholeheartedly believing that this Chelsea side, not Chelsea in principle, I know Chelsea in principle can pull off some amazing things. So that alone is keeping me in this. Is keeping my hopes alive. But believing that this group of Chelsea players, this Chelsea side can pull off an absolute miracle, I'm going to have to wait to see it, to believe it. I really am. With that said, for the love of God, boys, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I truly beg that you do.